Hey guys, welcome back to another video. In today's video, I want to talk about building habits, especially when it comes to investing. So, I think there's a lot of people out there that, when they think about investing, it seems so overwhelming to most people. And especially because for a lot of people, they feel like they just don't have the money to invest, right? If you're living paycheck to paycheck, you only have so much money left over to invest, and it might seem scary to have, that little remaining money that you have to put in the stock market and potentially lose 10-15% of it, right? So it's a scary thought. And that's something that I kind of dealt with too when I first started investing was, I was making money for the first time and I was scared to lose that money. So, of course, that was something I had to deal with. And so the reason I'm making this video is to kind of help walk through some of my logic to help ease those fears, but also to kind of talk through the importance of building the habit of investing, right? So I'll first kind of talk about developing the habit and why it's important. So first thing I'll say is, even if you don't have that much money to invest, I would say it's still important to try to invest what you can, right? So even if you're investing $5 a week, right? So let's say instead of buying a cup of coffee, take that $5 and try to invest it every week, right? $5 a week, that's $20 a month, right? Obviously, investing $5 a week is not really going to be enough money to retire on, but what it does do is it helps kind of develop that habit of investing, right? And so what you can do is you can just put it on if you can, try to invest automatically X amount every single week, and it will become so, once you start up the recurring investment, you're honestly almost going to forget about it. And that's the best way to invest, is you forget about your investments and they just keep growing and growing and growing. So that's what I'll say is, what you really want to do is just set up that recurring investment as soon as you possibly can. Now, I think what's really important here and what really changes as you start to develop that habit is you start to understand the opportunity cost of the things that you buy. So let's talk big purchases, right? So once you get into the habit of investing your leftover money, let's say you're thinking of treating yourself to a new car, right? Let's say you're gonna trade in your car and you're gonna get, the remaining amount that you have to pay is gonna be, let's say, 20 grand, right? So once you get into that mindset of becoming an investor, you're gonna think, well, I can either treat myself to a new car and spend $20,000 in cash, or I can take that $20,000 and I can invest it. And let's say I get a 10% return on the first year of that $20,000. That's $2,000 that I'm giving up just because I want this new car, right? So that's obviously for a big purchase like a car, but you can also do it for smaller purchases, right? Let's say you want to buy a new laptop for $1,000. You could buy it for $1,000, or you can invest that money into the stock market. And in 30-40 years, that $1,000 will become, I don't know the math off the top of my head, but it could be worth like 20 grand. So I think that's really the important thing, is just developing that investor mindset and really just building that habit of investing. And it honestly becomes kind of fun after a while. You're investing $5 a week, and then you start to find ways to cut down on expenses in your life. Maybe you also get a raise, so that $5 now becomes $15 a week, maybe $20 a week, and you'd be surprised at how quickly your portfolio starts to grow. And I think the exciting thing is that once you have some money in a portfolio, you're no longer just working for a paycheck. You're you're now an investor. You now own equity in some of the most successful companies in the world. And I think that's exciting, and it kind of changes your mindset a little bit, right? You're no longer just sitting on the sidelines. You're now making your money work for you. And I think that's a really big mindset shift. And you really start to prioritize and understand the importance of making your money work for you, as opposed to just, trying to trade your time for money for the rest of your life, right? So that's why I think it's important, even if you don't think you have a ton of money to invest, just start, right? Do $1, do $2, $3. The hardest part is starting. Once you start, it becomes easier. And once you develop that habit, it becomes a lot easier as well. And for those who are, the second part of what I said, for those who are afraid of losing money, I think once you set up that recurring investment and you kind of stop thinking about it, and most importantly, you stop checking it, you kind of forget about it. And that's the important thing, is once you learn to forget about the portfolio and you just do it on a regular basis, you stop caring that your portfolio goes up 5% or drops 5%. It all just becomes white noise, and just trust that in 30, 40 years, all of that, the drops and the rises, it's not really going to make a difference, because at the end of the day, it's going to be worth a lot more money in 40 years than it is today, right? So just trust the process and just build that habit. That's all it takes to become, somewhat wealthy, right? That's all it takes to become a millionaire, just developing that habit and investing in the stock market. So I wish I knew this when I was in high school. I wish I knew this when I was in college, so that I could have started investing as soon as possible. But, I was very fortunate, and I started investing right after college. So, I definitely was able to get the benefits of compound interest, but not everyone starts after college, and that's okay. The best time to start is today, right? If you're watching this video and you haven't started investing, start today. There's nothing stopping you, right? Cool. So thank you guys so much for watching this video, and I hope this was helpful for some of you. Thank you.